Hey everybody, it's Saturday, May 18th, out in the garage tonight. Been a while since our last video. We've had a number of little projects come and go that have been somewhat of a distraction for us. So tonight we're back on our 1977 Chevy C10, which is a good thing. I've been looking forward to this. Got it back in the garage. I'm going to continue on. This will be part 3 of this project. If you remember in parts 1 and parts 2, we looked the truck over, we cleaned it up, we started removing some stuff. We started making a record, writing down all the stuff that we found with the truck as what worked and what didn't, stuff like that. Tonight we're going to continue that a little bit farther, expand on that, and tonight we're going to be kind of logging in the condition, alignment of body panels, because that would be the next thing to be coming apart, so we want to have a record of where they were when we started. One of the things that you'll find is that you take these things apart and time goes by as you work on them. When you get putting them back together, it's just good to have a record of where you started. One of the things that we're going to do tonight, and I highly recommend this, our truck is, we're going to want our truck ultimately to ride lower. Right now the truck, it's sitting in regular pickup truck stance and it's a little bit up high. So our goal is going to be to reduce the gap in the wheel wells between the top of the tire and the wheel well opening itself. We want to close those two up. Now, there's a number of things that are yet to be determined as far as the end result here that we're going to have, and one of those would be tire and wheel size. I know for a fact I do not like the more modern style wheels and the modern style wheel larger diameters. I'm going to be going with more of a traditional mag wheel tire setup, kind of old school for this truck. In my opinion, with what I like, that is a better looking combination. A lot of the newer stuff today, yeah, some nice stuff, but when they're put on a classic vehicle like this that was never designed to have such large diameter wheels and so forth, they end up kind of looking like Hot Wheels, if you can, and we don't want to do that. We want more of a classic hot rod look. We want a regular rim diameter back here, probably a 15, maybe a 16-inch, nothing bigger than that probably, but some pretty fat tires back here to put some rubber in this wheel well. But we definitely want to lower this truck down, and what we're going to do is we're going to take some measurements and we're going to record the ride height of the truck as it sits right now. And what that will do is a little bit later down the road, when we're doing suspension work and so forth, because we're going to go to the frame and we're going to rebuild the truck up from there. So suspension is going to be kind of happening as one of the, actually one of the first parts of rebuild. Now, we won't have our body panels on at that point in time, so the idea now is to get an idea of, with the current springs on it and the size tires that it has, is to record gaps and so forth in height, so that when we're doing our suspension, we can actually make some educated choices as far as, you know, springs, maybe drop spindles, that type of thing. It will have a conventional setup as far as suspension goes, with decreased ride height. We could go air ride, something like that. Not my preference. I don't want to go that way. I don't really care for that type of stuff that much. So really, all we need to do is, first off, we'll take a look at what size tires that we're dealing with. The tires on the front and the rear of this truck are different now as it sits. Right here, we have a 30-inch by 9.5-inch 15-inch tire. Basically, what that's saying is that in theory it's a 30-inch tall tire, 9.5 inches wide. So width at this point we're not super concerned with, but I am concerned with height. So let's take a look here, very simply, just measure and see what we got. Alright, now see, here's why you want to measure this stuff up. Our 30-inch tire is actually 28.25 inches tall. So that's going to be a factor. We have to remember that, write it down. And what we have here is, as it sits right now, 33 inches to the wheel well opening from the ground. So once again, we've got, okay, so we got 33, and we've got 28.25. So that gives us, well, if it's 33 and 28, that would be 5 inches. So we have 4.75 inches of gap with this tire at this ride height in this wheel well. So we're going to want to take, when we get all done, you know, we want maybe an inch, something like that. So we're going to want to drop this thing, you know, approximately 3.5 inches, somewhere in that vicinity. But now we know. So and I will do the same thing to all four corners of the truck. I know the front has a 225, I think 225/50 15 tire on it. So it's a shorter tire, wider tire. So we'll have to calculate that and we'll do exactly the same thing as we did back here. And we'll record all these numbers so that when we look back in our journal that we're, you know, keeping on the truck, we'll have an idea of what we want to do when it's time to put it back together. So that gives you an idea of what we're doing here. I'm going to go ahead now and I'll do the other 3 corners of the truck. We'll get that recorded and then we'll move on to our next order of business. Alright, so next up we're going to look at our panel alignment. Take a look back here at the tailgate. Kind of take note of, you know, the gap that we have here. It's fairly straight, but it's, you know, on the tight side. Now if we come over here to the other side, as you can see, it's kind of, there's some damage here. It's a little wee-wye, and it doesn't line up here. We're out. Like I say, that side's not that great. This side's not too bad. So it actually lined up fairly well. Now, as we get looking across here, and you kind of eyeballing the tailgate does have some damage back in there. It's bent a little bit. So the tailgate's going to need some work for sure, if not something different. We're we're going to be going for more of a smooth look, I feel. So we may very well want to do something a little different with the tailgate, but either way, the alignment of it is not good. Now the next thing we'll take a look at, and this is kind of interesting, is we'll sight down the side of the truck. And interestingly enough, the box is this way. If you visually line up the side of the bed with the side of the cab right there, you'll notice that it is out this way. And if we come over here and we do the same thing here, it actually shows the same thing. The bed of the truck is that way in relation to the cab. Now, one thing that you'll find, especially with old pickup trucks, is that number one, when these trucks were brand new from the factory, you know what? They didn't line up very good anyways. And number two, now that 1977, let's see, 36 years later, and it's got bumps and bruises and bangs, stuff doesn't really line up very well now. Here's a good thing. Got a straight edge on our deal, and you can see there the door, we've got quite a gap in there. And if you come up here to the top and you straight edge across there, we've got a pretty good gap going on there. So the box is shifted to the left, or it's also, we can't necessarily say that. It may be that the cab is shifted to the right. What's to say? Either way, that's something that'll have to be addressed, you know, on reassembly, because we want it to line up a little bit better than that. We've got what I would call a normal gap in the back between the bed and the back of the cab. The bed is slightly bowed. It has a little bit of a bow to it. It's not really exactly straight. All right, we'll move on to this door. This door is really out of line. You'll notice we've got, a fingertip gap here on the bottom of the door. As it comes up, it slowly goes away, and we're touching right here. We have basically no gap at all. Top of the door is down, pretty good gap there, into here. So the door as it is right now is sitting this way, and it's down. It's not up, which could be, it could be sagging on the hinges, or other alignment issues. Fender gap is tight on the bottom, as we would expect if the door is cocked that way. And as we come up through, it opens up a little bit here. Use my finger as a guide. Not too bad. So the fender actually doesn't look horrible. It's off a little bit. It's down maybe a tad there. As you can see, the hood is up here. It doesn't give us a good alignment here. As we come across the hood, it's up on the fender, down to tight at the corner. Now the hoods on these trucks, when the hinges get dry, they're very prone to buckling in the center section here. There's a little crumple point that's stamped into the inner structure of the hood, and they're weak there, and the hoods quite often will bow. This one here is fairly straight. I don't think we've got any of that going on. I think we just have, you know, bad hinge alignment to deal with there. So as we eye down through here, this gap, the hood to fender gap down through there, you know what, it doesn't really look too bad. It's a little wide, I think, but in the grand scheme of what we're dealing with here, I don't think it's too bad. But as we come over to the other side, here we go. There's where the problem's. Okay. You'll see right here, not too bad. Got a little bit of a V, or opens up here. As we come back, it's gradually opening up as we get back until we've got a significant gap here and here. So our hood could be a little crooked on the hinges, but you know, I'm more inclined to say, looking at the fender, that the fender's off. If you look at the way the fender matches right here, it's just not where it needs to be. The fender to door gap here is, I mean, we could darn near throw a cat through there, so that's a pretty good gap down through there, which suggests that our door, if you look at this gap here, which is huge, I mean, look at my finger in here, our door is pushed back, and I think the door is down, but I think our fender, if you eyeball it here, our fender is not aligned real well either. So this door is actually a lot farther off than the other side. I mean, if you look, it's contacting here and really tight here. But now, interestingly enough, this gap here opens up as well. So we've got a wide gap on both sides. This body line is off a little bit. The door is lower than here. But I don't know, we seem to have a pretty good, if you look, there's a pretty good angle to this side of the cab here too. What we may have here is we may have some previous body damage with a so-so repair, you know, things not put back into place. So we'll have to take all this stuff into consideration as we come putting it back together panel by panel. Some of I would like to reuse as many of these panels as possible, just for the reason of keeping costs down. The doors, that one there has an owie in it right there, but not too bad. They're not rusty, so I think the doors are a reuser. The fenders are pretty decent. They got little bumps or bruises, but I think they're easily to be reused. The hood, not really sure. I do like the cowl induction hoods, but there's something to be said for the standard regular hood as well. I think it's a good look. So I think our front group pieces, for the most part at this point, are planning on being reused, but they are going to have to line up a lot better. So, and with this issue with the box is going to have to be squared up. You really notice it if you look here, how it's over like that. One thing that these trucks do, and it's the same on both sides, is your cab almost angles like that. I mean, both sides are pretty much the same, but either so, the bed can shift that way, probably, you know, 3/8 of an inch or so, and that would give us a lot better alignment. There's a height difference here too, which could be, you know, we may have some bad cab mounts in there. I mean, this is not a new vehicle. It's got some time on it. Rubber does age and deteriorate. So all stuff that we need to, of course now we have a video record of where we're at, but it's all stuff that we're going to need to contend with as we reassemble our truck and do our body work. I pretty much decided to de-trim. I'm not going to reuse this trim. We're going to go for more of a smooth look. We may end up with wheel well trim, the moldings around the wheel well, but I'm thinking not here or here on the sides, and it probably will not be a two-tone color. I'm thinking more of a darker color, and we're going to possibly do some subtle airbrush work, maybe some subtle ghost flames, something like that in there, but it will not, I don't think it'll be a two-tone paint. So the other thing, this truck has the two gas tanks, one on either side. These fuel filler openings here are just ugly as all get out on these old trucks. So maybe we'll fill that, and we'll do something a little different for a fuel fill. I don't know, we'll put something inside the bed or that, I don't know. There's got to be something we can do here to make that look a little bit better, and go from there. So now that we've had a good look at that, probably this will wind up part 3 of our Chevy project, our 77 C10. I think next up, probably in part 4, will be removing the bed. We'll take the bed off the truck. My plan for that is to take and we'll remove the bed, we'll take it off, and we're going to put it outside the garage here, and we're going to use we'll tarp it, and we're going to use the bed for storage of parts as we take them off. We'll be putting them in the bed and storing them there, and that'll free up room in our already crowded small garage for other stuff. So that's next on the agenda. We'll be removing the bed, and from there we'll probably be removing the front group from the truck, hood, fenders, that type of stuff, working our way back to the cab. Once we get the front group removed, we'll probably pull the powertrain out. We'll take the engine transmission out, continue our way back, and we'll get the cab off the chassis and get down to it. So that's where we're at. We've got some work to do in segment 4. So until then, you guys take it easy.